You selfish old man. After everything we've done for you, you can't do this one thing for us? Garrett, I'm not co-signing a loan for a boat. That's not... A boat? This is about our future. But I guess you don't care about your own daughter's happiness, do you? My son-in-law screamed at me in my own home because I wouldn't co-sign his loan. Hi, I'm Irving. Today I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. I'm 62 years old, a retired accountant who spent 40 years helping people manage their money wisely. My wife Lillian passed away 3 years ago, and since then, I've lived alone in the house we bought together 30 years ago. My daughter Veronica is my only child, and I'd always thought we had a good relationship until she married Garrett. Garrett worked in sales, the kind of guy who was always chasing the next big deal. He had charm, I'll give him that. When Veronica first brought him home 5 years ago, he was all smiles and compliments. He praised my house, my career, even my golf swing. But I've been around long enough to spot a salesman when I see one. They got married 2 years ago, and slowly things started changing. Garrett began making comments about my outdated furniture and my boring retirement lifestyle. He'd hint that I should invest in his various schemes, always presented as can't-miss opportunities. I politely declined every time, and each refusal seemed to irritate him more. Veronica worked as a dental hygienist, steady income, good benefits, but Garrett was never satisfied with steady. He wanted flashy. He convinced Veronica they needed a bigger house in a prestigious neighborhood, a luxury car for him, designer everything. I watched my daughter's stress levels rise as their expenses climbed. One Sunday afternoon, they came over for dinner. I'd made pot roast, Veronica's favorite. Garrett barely touched his food, too busy scrolling through his phone. Finally, he looked up with that salesman smile. "Irving, I've got an incredible opportunity," he said. "There's this boat dealership investment. If I can get in on it now, we're talking serious returns. 6 figures within a year." I set down my fork. "A boat dealership?" "Not just any dealership. Luxury yachts. The owner's expanding, and he's only letting in select investors. This is the kind of opportunity that changes lives." "How much does he need?" I asked. 50,000. But here's the thing. The bank needs a co-signer with solid credit. Just a formality, really. I'll be making the payments, obviously. There it was, the real ask. "Garrett, I'm not comfortable co-signing a loan for that amount," his smile faltered. "It's not like you'd actually have to pay anything. It's just a signature." "If it's just a signature, then it shouldn't be a problem if I don't provide it," I said calmly. "Co-signing means I'm legally responsible if you default. At my age with my retirement savings, that's not a risk I can take." Veronica touched Garrett's arm. "Dad's right. Maybe we should wait until we can qualify on our own." Garrett pulled his arm away from her. "We'll miss the window. This opportunity won't be available in 6 months." He turned back to me. "Come on, Irving. I'm family now. Don't you trust me?" "It's not about trust. It's about financial responsibility. I've seen too many people lose everything co-signing loans." We finished dinner in awkward silence. As they were leaving, Garrett muttered something about family helping family that I chose to ignore. Over the next few weeks, Garrett brought it up repeatedly. He'd call with updates about the investment opportunity, always circling back to how much I'd regret missing out. Veronica started looking exhausted every time I saw her. Then one evening they showed up unannounced. Garrett was carrying a folder full of papers. "I brought all the documentation," he said, pushing past me into my living room. "Once you see the numbers, you'll understand why this is such a no-brainer." "Garrett, I already told you. Just look at the projections." He spread papers across my coffee table. "See? 30% return in the first year alone. You could invest your own money and triple it." "If the returns are so guaranteed, the bank wouldn't need a cosigner," I pointed out. His jaw tightened. "The bank is being overly cautious. You know how they are." "I do know how they are. They're cautious because these investments often fail." "Dad," Veronica said softly, "Garrett's really passionate about this. He's been working so hard on his business plans." I looked at my daughter, seeing the strain around her eyes. "Veronica, sweetheart, can I talk to you in the kitchen for a moment?" We left Garrett organizing his papers and walked into the kitchen. I kept my voice low. "Are you okay? You seem stressed." She sighed. "I'm fine." Garrett's just been working a lot, trying to build our future. Is he pressuring you about this loan? No, not pressuring. He just really believes in it. But her eyes wouldn't meet mine. Veronica, I need you to be honest with me. Are you two in financial trouble? She hesitated, then nodded slightly. We're managing, but things are tight. The mortgage on the new house is higher than we expected, and Garrett's car payment is substantial. He says this investment could solve everything. Or it could make things worse, I said gently. These get-rich-quick schemes rarely work out. We returned to the living room. Garrett looked up expectantly. So, are you ready to sign? No, Garrett, my answer is still no. His face flushed red. You're making a huge mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. They left shortly after, Garrett practically slamming my front door. Veronica looked back apologetically, but followed her husband to the car. 3 weeks later, they returned. I was in my workshop in the garage, refinishing an old dresser, when I heard Garrett's voice at my front door. Irving, we need to talk. I walked into the house, wiping sawdust from my hands. Garrett was pacing my living room like a caged animal. Veronica stood by the door looking miserable. The deadline's tomorrow, Garrett said. This is your last chance to get in on this. I appreciate you thinking of me, but no. That's when he exploded. The words from the beginning of this story came pouring out, his voice rising with each sentence. My neighbors probably heard every word. I stood there, shocked by his outburst. Veronica was crying now, tugging at his sleeve. Garrett, please, let's just go. But he wasn't done. Do you know what your daughter gave up for you? She visits you every week, helps you with your bills, makes sure you're okay, and this is how you repay her? By refusing to help when we actually need something? I never asked Veronica to help with my bills, I said quietly. I'm perfectly capable of managing my own finances. That's not the point. The point is family helps family, and you're refusing. Family doesn't scream at family in their own home, I said, my voice still calm but firm. And family definitely doesn't guilt trip and manipulate. I think you both should leave now. Veronica was sobbing openly. Dad, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean... Your husband meant every word, I interrupted gently. Veronica, you're always welcome here. But Garrett needs to leave. Garrett grabbed Veronica's arm. Fine, we'll go. But don't expect us to come running when you need help someday, old man. They left, and my house felt incredibly quiet. I sat in my armchair, my hands shaking slightly. In 40 years of marriage, Lillian and I had never shouted at each other like that. I couldn't imagine speaking to anyone that way, let alone someone I supposedly cared about. The next morning, my friend Harold came over for our usual Sunday coffee. Harold had known me and Lillian for decades. When I told him what happened, he shook his head. That boy's got a gambling problem, Harold said bluntly. What makes you say that? Irving? I've known addicts. The desperation, the get-rich-quick schemes, the anger when he doesn't get his way. He's either gambling or he's got some other expensive habit he's hiding. I hadn't considered that, but it made a disturbing amount of sense. Should I warn Veronica? She probably already knows deep down, but she won't leave him until she's ready to see it herself. Harold was right. Veronica didn't call for 2 weeks. When she finally did, her voice was small. Dad, can I come over? Of course, sweetheart. Any time. She arrived an hour later, alone. Her eyes were red, and she looked like she'd lost weight. We sat in the kitchen, and I made her favorite tea. Garrett didn't get the investment, she said. He's been angry ever since. He keeps saying it's your fault we missed out. Veronica, that's not fair, and you know it. I know. She wrapped her hands around the mug. Dad, can I ask you something? Did you and Mom ever fight about money? Sure, sometimes. But we always worked through it together. We never let it become bigger than our relationship. Garrett and I fight about money constantly. We're drowning in debt, and he keeps wanting to spend more. He says we need to invest in our image for his career. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. I'm scared, Dad. I don't know what to do. I reached across and took her hand. What do you want to do? I don't know. I love him, but I'm exhausted. And after how he spoke to you, she shook her head. I was so embarrassed. You didn't deserve that. No, I didn't. And neither do you. You deserve a partner who respects you and your family. We talked for hours that afternoon. I didn't tell her to leave Garrett. That had to be her decision. But I did encourage her to take control of her own finances, to see exactly where their money was going. Over the next month, Veronica came over regularly, always alone. She'd started separating her finances from Garrett's, putting her paychecks into her own account. What she discovered shocked her. He's been gambling, Dad, she told me one evening. Online poker, sports betting, even the lottery, thousands of dollars every month. That's why he needed that investment loan. He was hoping to win it all back. I'm sorry, sweetheart. The boat dealership investment? I called the number from his papers. It doesn't exist. He made it all up. He was going to take your $50,000 and gamble with it. I felt anger rising in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. What are you going to do? I'm leaving him. I already talked to a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. It wasn't easy. Garrett fought the divorce, claiming Veronica was influenced by me. He showed up at my house twice more, both times demanding to talk to Veronica. The second time, I had to threaten to call the police before he left. The divorce proceedings revealed the full extent of Garrett's financial disaster. He'd maxed out credit cards in both their names, taken out personal loans, even borrowed money from his coworkers with no intention of paying it back. The luxury car was about to be repossessed. The prestigious house was in foreclosure. Veronica moved back in with me temporarily while everything was sorted out. It was nice having her home again, though I wished it were under better circumstances. We fell into an easy routine, cooking dinner together, watching old movies, talking about everything and nothing. One evening, about 6 months into the divorce process, there was a knock at the door. It was Garrett's mother, Pauline. I'd met her a few times at family gatherings, a quiet woman who always seemed apologetic about her son's behavior. Irving, I'm so sorry to bother you, she said. May I come in? I let her in, curious. We sat in the living room and she twisted her hands nervously. I need to apologize for my son's behavior, she said. What he did to you, to Veronica, it's inexcusable. You're not responsible for his choices, Pauline. In a way, I am. His father and I always bailed him out of trouble. Bad investments, gambling debts, failed business ventures. We thought we were helping, but we just enabled him. She looked at me with tired eyes. When Veronica filed for divorce, I told Garrett we wouldn't help him anymore. He needed to face the consequences of his actions. That must have been difficult. It was necessary. He's 40 years old, Irving. It's past time he grew up. She paused. I also wanted to tell you that I testified in the divorce proceedings. I told the lawyer about all the money we'd given Garrett over the years, about his gambling problem. Veronica deserves a clean break from all this. After she left, I felt a strange sense of respect for Pauline. It takes courage to stop enabling someone you love, even when it hurts. The divorce was finalized 8 months after Veronica filed. She got to keep her car and her retirement account. Garrett got his debts and his consequences. The bank came after him for the foreclosed house, his wages were garnished for the unpaid loans, and his employer eventually fired him for borrowing money from coworkers. I later heard through Pauline that Garrett had hit rock bottom before things started changing. He'd been evicted from 2 apartments, lost another job, and finally ended up at a support group for gambling addiction. Pauline said he'd been sober from gambling for 3 months and was genuinely working on himself. I'm not asking you or Veronica to forgive him, Pauline told me during one of her occasional visits, but I wanted you to know he's taking responsibility now. He even wrote you both letters of apology, though he asked me not to send them unless you wanted to receive them. I appreciated Pauline's honesty, but I had no interest in Garrett's letters. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. Veronica felt the same. She'd moved on, and dredging up the past served no purpose. Sometimes I think about that day when Garrett screamed at me in my own living room. It was ugly and uncomfortable, but it was also clarifying. It showed both Veronica and me exactly what kind of man she'd married, and it gave her the push she needed to take control of her own life. I don't regret standing my ground, not for a second. My retirement savings are intact, my relationship with my daughter is stronger than ever, and I can look at myself in the mirror knowing I did the right thing even when it was hard. If your son in law or daughter in law tried to pressure you into a risky financial decision and got angry when you refused, would you stand your ground or give in to keep the peace?